I don't know if that came across, but it got your attention probably. A nice tale here, bringing you a knife review. This is the Null Knives Vandal, the most recent release from Null Knives. I do hope this video finds you well, and if you would consider liking, subscribing, hitting the button, the bell, and commenting, etc., etc., sharing the videos, just telling other people about the videos. There's another reviewer. Not that we needed one, but there is now one more. I'd greatly appreciate any of that. Really, I really would. It would help the channel and everything like that. But that's not why we're here. We're here for this knife review, or assuming you're still here. Can't guarantee that. Yeah, I don't know again if that's coming across, but that is loud, extremely loud acoustics on this knife. Let's get into the specs. It actually got me a couple minutes ago. I was bleeding like a stuck pig. It hit me right on the apex of the knuckle when it was coming down. But let's start talking about the specs, and then we'll get into some of the stuff that I think about this knife and move on from there. You've got actually a little over 3 3/4 inches of blade. You've got 8 and almost 7/8, so 8.85 inches overall. And on the actual handle, you have about 5 inches. Pretty darn close. Let's make some comparisons so you know what you're looking at and you know what this thing sits compared to the very popular Civivi Elementum and the very, in my opinion, good comparison knife, the Civivi Conspirator. This is the small, this is the full-size knife comparison, and this thing is bigger than both of them. As you can see, you get more blade, you get more handle. The handle-to-blade ratio is a little bit off. I mean, you've got like 5 inches here and 3 and almost 4 inches, so I mean, it's not too bad, but there are knives that I guess do that better in ratio. Normally, an inch longer handle is pretty reasonable. It's not bad at all. It's giving you a lot of room, and as you can see, I'd actually consider this a large knife. It just passes the bar for me. The one more comparison, I guess, before we go into the actual thickness comparisons, let's do the AA battery grip length comparison. And as you can see, to this point on the handle, you don't have 2 AA batteries. You have about 1 3/4. I would say, even if you have big hands, you can definitely wrap your hands around this. If I grab, I mean, I can get up in here, in this thing. But even if I have to go back here, I still feel like I've got a good grip on this thing. So it's pretty good. You've got, in my personal opinion, more than 2 AA batteries worth of actual grip length on this, plus a pretty good sized forward finger tool. Maybe the larger handed of us with really thick fingers would have trouble up there. A little bit, maybe. But overall, you have just room for days on this knife. You're not going to have an issue there. Thickness comparison to the actual Conspirator, they're very similar. I think this might be a little bit thicker, but this is also contoured. Let's check out thickness right now while we're here. The actual thickness of this Vandal is 546 thousandths, so about a ½ inch and a half. It is a little bit thicker than the Conspirator. Blade stock thickness is, I'm guessing 145 thousandths. It's a little bit robust, but it has a compound grind with a hollow grind as the rear grind on this blade, so it gets down pretty thin. Let's see there. 13 thousandths on the hollow grind, and up front on the flat, it's going to be a bit thicker. I, of course, had a bad angle. 17 thousandths. I'm going to call it 17 thousandths, probably is pretty reasonable. Pretty good geometry, honestly. Very useful in multiple areas. Checking out the hardware, you have T8 pivot, T8 scale screws, T8 lock bar screws. You have a T6 thumb stud screw. You have a T6 internal hidden pocket clip screw, and unfortunately, this is I did remove the scale and see this. Unfortunately, for some reason, the actual primary handle screws are T6. I don't know why they put T6 in there when you can when you put T8 on the outside. I'd prefer it to be the opposite way, if anything, or honestly, I prefer it to be Alt T8, period, but is what it is, I guess. However, it just does seem like a bit of a screwy design decision there, right? I mean, who likes T6? No one. No one likes T6. The answer is no one. If you said otherwise, you're wrong. End of story. No, you don't get to talk any more than that. Wait. It is... Can we see that? I don't know why this thing fights on the light sometimes, but it does. It is 4.98 ounces, so it's 5 ounces, which is, I mean, it's not an ounce an inch, but it's not bad ratios considering how big this thing is, and once you get to this size, weight usually starts growing exponentially. I believe that will take us to the end of our specs section. Let's just quickly talk about this knife. You have, it's a hard to classify blade shape. Since it is not a straight clip up here, I'm going to say it is a drop point, Tonto blade shape, dual ground, compound grind, Tonto, with just a lot of little extras, a little bit of horn there, a little all craziness. I kind of think a version without that swedge would be kind of interesting too. But it is there, it is interesting, and it is doing its thing. Flat, hollow ground. Decent size bevel, not too bad. It doesn't, my guess is it's probably got a decent edge angle on it, not too high of an edge angle. This particular one is satin all over, horizontal and vertical, and a blasted on the swedge and up here for some reason. The logo is the only thing on the blade. I really don't like that. I really don't like that. I don't like when it's on the primary bevel, especially when there's so much room to put it on the flat. It's not like there's no flat here. If you have to put the logo on the blade, do it up there. Just, that really needs to be removed and moved in general. Null Knives has consistently put their logo there, and I do not like it at any point. just not for me. The blade steel is Vanex, which is a very good, very interesting steel that typically is basically completely corrosion resistance, got good edge retention, good toughness. Not quite as much edge retention as something like well heat-treated M390, but it's good. It does typically add some cost to a knife. It is more expensive steel. So that should give you a little preview of where that's going. There is jimping up here on the top of the spine. It is not like the greatest kind of jimping, but I can't complain about it because it works. It provides traction. It's good. There is a fuller and a thumb stud for actuation on this knife. This particular model, or not model, but this particular knife, like the individual knife, has a really heavy detent on it. I mean, you can kind of... I don't know if that's coming across, but it's heavy snap. Going up high for the reverse lick just doesn't work. I can't get it out. Going at the wrong angle, like kind of more well, that did work. Okay, fair enough. But it's got a really heavy detent on it, and I don't think the camera or the microphone is doing the justice to that pop and that how loud this thing is. Despite that heavy detent, however, it has a really nice and smooth action and like a light shake shut drop. It's really good. It is on bearings. The last thing on the blade that I want to talk about is the sharpening choil, plunge grind, and finger choil. Sharpening choil is, of course, huge, but the plunge grind hits the edge. I don't know why they overlooked this, especially on a comparable model from Null Knives being the Voodoo with a very similar structure, kind of. The plunge grind on that knife, if I recall... Hold on, you know what? I'm just going to... Well, hi! If you were watching and saw all of a sudden interruption there, the stupid video cut out for me. I think I hit it by accident. Where was I? Talking about the Voodoo. Yeah, the Voodoo has a sharpening choil that is considerably removed from the actual edge. They didn't do that on the... It is also much smaller, but they didn't do that on the Vandal. It goes right to the edge. I think that's like bit of an oversight, which is unfortunate. That needs to be moved back. You can, of course, cut in your own sharpening tool because the stop pin does hit well behind the edge. So it's not going to cause like a major issue over the time, but you're going to have to cut a little bit more of the edge out, and you're going to have to mess with that more and sooner than you would otherwise should you be sharpening this knife regularly. A little bit unfortunate. The choil itself is pretty roomy. Like, I feel pretty safe and comfortable here. I suppose if you have a really big fingers and you get really up on there, you could, but at the angles are good. It doesn't feel like I'm going to roll forward into the edge. So I don't think there's going to be too much problem there. That is a loud snap. I believe I already mentioned it's on bearings. I'll be honest, that little cutout threw me off there. It says Vandal inside, and the number, this is number 233 of the original run. We have PVD, I'm pretty sure it's PVD, coated titanium and carbon fiber scales. There were a number of variants of this, but not all had the PVD and stuff like that. But I love the ano and the pivot texturing. They did it on the Voodoo too, though it's a little darker and you get harder to see. I love this texturing. They carried that texturing onto the lock bar, which there's good access to, and that texturing is wonderful. Great disengagement, no problems whatsoever. Access for days, texture, and when it drops you into the choil instead of onto the blade, which is a nice thing indeed. I mean, it saves your nail a little bit and I guess preserves the blade. I like it when it does it, so yeah, whatever. There's a lock bar insert. Also a T8 screw on the lock bar insert, which is, again, still weird that there's T6 inside, but okay. There is a large backspacer, which I will come back to in just a second. Let's talk about the clip real fast. Copper carbon fiber scales and a very close anodized hardware to the copper. The pocket clip, as I said, I'm just coming back to it again, Jesus. Woo! Is a little bit tight. It could probably be a little bit thinner and have a little bit more flex in it. It is a little tight, but it does flex and it does have good retention. It comes back to true and everything, and it's not too long. It works. It's a solid pocket clip, but it might be a little bit tight. I do like the design put into the pocket clip. I do think it flows well. This is the same clip that's on the Voodoo, in fact. How is the Voodoo's clip? Yeah, the Voodoo has, for some reason, less tension on it, and I'm not 100% sure. I mean, that can just be a number of variables. Just a piece of titanium, really. This is technically, I guess you would consider a bolster lock knife. Very well fit up scales. Or, I mean, maybe not perfectly fit up, but high quality, very well done, very well executed. About as good as you can expect and want from a premium knife. Now, let's come back to this backspacer. I really despise this backspacer. It was on the Voodoo, and yeah, this morphing heart, I suppose you could say that looks like a V's for the Vandal, but this morphing heart backspacer just does not fit the knife at all. It doesn't fit the Voodoo, it doesn't fit this knife. Just no. It's I don't know why. It really bothers me. I do not like it whatsoever. Which is unfortunate because I like a lot about this knife. Oh, there's a little smudge right there. Let's see if we can get that real fast. But yeah, the backspacer. I really want them to change that or never use this backspacer again. Just straight up. There is no internal milling, but the exterior has been milled for the carbon fiber scales, so who cares, right? Overall, this is a really, really good knife. You got a lot of different kinds of positions to grip it on. It's got good geometries, well executed, good materials. In fact, a nice little thing to talk about is this little slope back here. If you go back into this primary position and sort of put your finger back, and don't mind being far away from the blade edge, I should say, you can sort of push into this area, and it cants the blade forward and gives you a very interesting feel and take on the edge and act, and the way it just sort of sits in the hand is interesting. It's got a lot of freedom of movement, and it's super comfortable, super ergonomic. The pocket clip is great, almost basically disappears. There's no play. It's centered. It's wonderfully executed. Oh, before I finish up, the actual depth of the pocket clip, as you can see, the pocket clip actually kind of sort of sits at this angle. There's a slope in it, but practically it's probably going to sit about here in your pocket, unless you want it to sit like kind of there. It's going to sit about here in your pocket, so that's medium depth. You've got good purchase on the knife. This does actually work as a good point to pull on. But the knife is doing a lot of really good stuff. However, there are a number of things that are holding this knife back from me even really probably putting it in like my top 10 of the year or my top knives of the year list. They're partly subjective, or mostly subjective, but yeah, the oversight of that sharpening trail, that stupid logo there, this horrifying clip that just bothers the crap out of me for some, I mean, not the clip, the spacer, that backspacer that bothers the crap out of me. There are some misses on this that I really, really would like to see addressed going forward, just in general along the line, because like this one also has some of the same very negative parts to it, really. I think just reevaluation for going forward of what Null Knives is going to do for these placements and executions of things need to be taken into consideration if they want to be like truly top tier. They're really good. This is a great knife. And because of that Vanex, it is probably justifying its price better than most small batch like OEM knives for a smaller company. It is an expensive knife. The knife, I believe, the micarta variant of this knife, the basic one, comes in at a pretty reasonable, I think $360-ish. That's 100% a knockout of the park. This particular version with the special carbon fiber and the PVD and a little bit of extras going on here is up at $425. It is a big jump. It is a little bit more than I would like to see, but again, the Vanex does go a bit to justifying why it's more expensive. It's just a more expensive steel. And it does add value, and there's definitely some elements here that are maybe raising it up a little bit. I do think like a $400 would probably be a better price point for this, but I mean the $360 on the regular variant or the cheapest variant is very reasonable. And I think there's a $385 for a carbon fiber variant that isn't maybe got some of the extra bits. Those are extremely reasonable and extremely competitive, and definitely recommendable. But I would like to see a few changes that really would elevate the entire kind of brand line for me. I mean, I had a Raiden, the KNP Launch Edition Raiden. I did end up selling that eventually. I have a Ghoul, I have the Voodoo, and I have this. I have most of the line for Null Knives. I really like what they're doing. The only thing I don't have is the Grace and the Ryko, and I mean, currently a Raiden. Ryko and Raiden are basically interchangeable, just blade shape differences. I really like them. I follow them. I like them. Check them out on Instagram, etc., etc. Just a few tweaks that I would like to see. Here, the action is super smooth, and despite this heavy detent, it's pretty, almost drop shutty. Yeah, this is a great knife, and it's a recommendable knife. I just want to see a few adjustments made in general. I think that brings us to the end, and I've touched on everything relatively important here. So I will say I'm all done. Like, subscribe, again, blah, 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 blah. Greatly helps the channel, and I do appreciate it, even if I say blah, 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 because I say it all the time, right? Good knife. Interesting design. I think you'll like it. There was a drop and then there was a pre-order. I'm pretty sure the pre-order's closed, so there'll probably be future variants of this knife coming out. Hopefully with some changes made. I'm going to end things here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and see you later.